Today I'm covering five books. I got them right here beneath me. 5 books that are beneficial to your life that you've never heard of, that are fun nonfiction books for young people. So it just goes to show you how many amazing books are out there that are fun, interesting, and could help your life. So the first one is Star Wars, Be More Vader, Assertive Thinking from the Dark Side. This one's kind of I think, tongue-in-cheek, playful book, like a coffee table book. Each page has a little bit of a tip about how a Sith Lord can you can model to be more decisive, devise a solid career plan, and stick to it. Obviously, the author's trying to spin these to be more actually practical. Never tolerate insubordination. Hire external contractors if necessary. And it's a fun way of anyone who loves Star Wars to really become more assertive, which can be helpful for your job. Make your expectations clear. It's just fun. Even has nice little pictures. You know, there's Darth Vader dueling Obi-Wan. Accept a leadership position. Give credit where it's due. You have been well trained, my young apprentice. There will be no match for you. So I think it's a nice, fun book, and for me, I think he's definitely spinning them to be actually more practical in the real world. Because I also saw a Business Insider video like a few years ago, where it was kind of the opposite. 10 reasons why basically the Sith Empire failed. So basically, you know, there's clearly some stuff they're doing wrong, and that's why they're villains. And so I think the one caveat is just to take it with a grain of salt. Some of that advice is maybe a little bit bad for a reason, because it's a Sith Empire, and they were maybe a bit more too commanding, too assertive. That's why, like, if you really want to take it serious, you learn from real business people, successful business leaders. But still, nice, fun book. There's probably some stuff you could still take away from it. The next one, The Art of War Illustrated Edition. Now, this one is not the illustrated edition that I wanted. I thought it was the right one, but it's not. In terms of illustrations, it is just a small picture of some nature from time to time. No, there's another illustrated version. I think it's a newer one, where not only do they illustrate it, but they insert examples every few pages, every chapter, of real wars throughout history, not just Asian wars, but throughout history, modern and old school, of how these principles were applied, and they also illustrated that war, or had photographs of that real war. If you're not familiar with Sun Tzu, this is actually a very popular book nowadays. Over a million copies were sold, and he is this ancient Chinese warlord, wrote an entire book about the art of war, and then it started to get I guess it got leaked in China. Then it got translated to many different languages, and basically people really took it by storm, and lots of business people, generals, and so forth liked the book. Another fun book, once again. Obviously, I think if you still gotta take this one with a grain of salt too. I gotta tell you, I'm more the skeptical type, because a lot of people try and extend this to the business world or to their life, and it's like, dude, this is a book about warfare. That doesn't mean to translate. You might end up being too brutal, or you might need to tweak a few things in business, because those tips may be too outdated, or imperial for the real world of business. The next one is this is a real fun one. Anne Frank's Diary, the graphic adaptation. So I've never actually read Anne Frank, but clearly a lot of people have, because they were forced to for school, or they just found it critically acclaimed. Amazing story. I mean, this was not a book written to sell. It was an actual diary of a young lady who lived through the Holocaust. And of course, it got very popular because it was a timeless account of a family who had to go through some horrible things in the modern world, starvation and all this stuff, um, and really sad, honestly. Um, but there you go. Like, if you don't want to read the real version, there's so many stuff out there you won't even believe. This is the animated, basically comic book manga version of this, and you get to see her progression through time as she slowly starts to, you know, get into a place where Hitler is just ruining his life, their life. Very sad, honestly, but now I can read it in a way that's a bit more fun than a book. Next one is another fun one, The Walking Dead Book 1. So a lot of people love the TV show, and I love the TV show too, but I've been told that what's even better is to read the comic book version. You get a better sense of the story. You'll get various differences too. Daryl's not in here, but there's like slight differences. Some people don't die that die in the TV show, and vice versa. And you get this like sense for, you know, what's going on in a different way. So really, really fun thing to do there. To each their own. Some people like that. Some people, it's just worth a try. And then a really nice fun one, Dr. Stone. I'm gonna cover up the barcode here. And if you guys don't know about Dr. Stone, I didn't really know either, but apparently it's a fairly famous Shonen Jump a manga, you know, standard type of stuff where you know, they go through that hero's journey. And from what I could tell, it's this guy who was a scientist who basically got way ahead of humanity, and then came back to humanity after just kind of isolating himself for many years. I don't know, I haven't read it before, but it's one of the few manga of all the popular manga that I haven't checked out. So I was like, volume 1, let's go. And you know, everything else I've read, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, One Punch Man, Demon Slayer, Hunter x Hunter, you name it, I've read it. FMA, Death Note. So this is one of the last ones. Stone, I'm gonna leave no stone unturned. I hear it's pretty decent, so I gotta check it out. And by the way, if you don't have a bookstore or the money to buy books, there's so many ways you can get this at an affordable price. As you can tell with these, I can get these at my library. Sometimes you have to wait on hold, but that's okay. But sometimes you just go to the library, you explore, and you find all sorts of amazing stuff that you haven't seen before. So obviously, the U.S. Public Library, that's another resource. But on top of that, used books. Go to Amazon. Go somewhere that sells used books, and usually you can find them for a discount price. Another option. This is something my family used to do all the time. They would drop me off as a teen at Barnes and Nobles, and usually if you go to a good Barnes and Nobles, they have couches, they have chairs, they have lounges, or at least they have areas you can sit, because now they sell like Starbucks coffee, and then they're trying to get you to buy and drink coffee and snacks and pastries while you read. And so basically you can spend the whole afternoon there, and you have all these books, sometimes a much more robust collection that are brand new, and you can read them there. And I was actually reminiscing the other day, because I hadn't done it in years, and I was like, I'm going to do it. So I went to a Barnes & Noble, spent a good 2, 3, maybe 4 hours. No, it wasn't 4. 2, 3 hours there. And I was just like, I'm just going to have a blast. So I picked up Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets Illustrated Edition. Never read the illustrated version. I read the original, and it was amazing. I read the whole thing through. Some were kind of skims, but I read a good portion of it. And then I got to relive Chamber of Secrets, and got to see all the pictures that they added to it as well. So that was really fun. And then I read a few other manga as well, and it was a blast. I got to catch up on a lot of stuff that I didn't. Bone is a comic book that I've heard a lot of good things about. Encountered it when I was like 10 years ago. Like some guy bought it at school, and then since then I just never really followed up on it. And then I read volume one. So there's clearly a lot of options for basically getting these books. And like I said, there's so many out there that you wouldn't even believe exist. So there you go. There's so much really cool stuff out there, and you can learn a lot from these books. I mean, this guy is basically a war general, and he's basically telling you like the best way to live. Let me read a little bit of this. From perceptive descriptions of the 9 varieties of terrain, to advice on how to gauge an enemy's weakness and strengths, to suggestions on the employment of secret agents, here is timeless advice on combat and military strategy. Sun Tzu's writings are unsurpassed in depth of understanding, shedding light not only on battlefield maneuvers, but also on the relevant economic, political, and psychological factors that can shape the outcome of warfare. I mean, talk about that. If you love warfare and that type of stuff, there's all sorts of other great books on this. There's one called The Book of Five Rings by this undefeated samurai of Japan. Legend has it that he won like 15 one-on-one battles or something like that. Maybe it was more or less, but he won them all. And then he wrote this book, which is actually, it's not as practical as The Art of War, because it's more philosophical and hard to decipher. Like, it talks about like soft and hard and all this stuff. It's not just like clear cut, but he wrote a whole book on his philosophy, and so very interesting stuff. So man, I could talk about this for a while, but hopefully you enjoy. See